Hey all, Toads here, back playing some more Planet Zoo, and this is episode 6 of my Canadian zoo project, Tiguidou. So if you've missed the previous ones of these, it is a kind of rural setting zoo, not super themed I'd say, not kind of massively themed. It's a bit of a kind of mix of a, kind of like a roadside rural Canadian zoo set in kind of Alberta region, I think we said, or did we say Calgary? Actually, I think we said Calgary. I think I said Alberta originally, and then I changed it to Calgary. So yeah, loads of stuff going on in this one. As usual, the speed build up the front, real-time tour at the end, chapters marking that below if you want to skip ahead. And yeah, so there's basically kind of two major things happening in this one. I'm starting the shell for the gift shop, which you'll see me doing here, again sort of completely custom build. If you haven't seen these, basically what I'm doing is this zoo is a small map zoo, so it's using one of the scenario zoos, and that is meaning that I'm kind of going to town on every little nook and cranny, and it's going to be pretty tight, especially at this kind of entrance area. We're still working broadly around the entrance area here, and so everything's pretty crammed in and pretty tight. There's not loads of space. It's kind of a natural basin, which is what I'm working to, this kind of sloping landscape down into the rocks at the end. So yeah, you see me putting together this custom building. This building is not fitted out. I kind of run out of steam with it a little bit, but I think I'll kind of come back to it at some point. It is supposed to be a gift shop. It's going to be a gift shop and a maybe like an education area. I think the upstairs of it is going to be an education area. But I spent such a long time on the actual building that I kind of ran out of momentum with it, and I think I'll come back to it. I'm sort of lacking inspiration a little bit for the interior. I've done some bits of the interior. And again, this is a little bit of a departure from the previous style. I guess this is most similar to the actual entrance building. The cafe is a particular style. This is a slightly more modern style as we're moving down the hill. So the key to this building really was, again, basically getting as much light in. Because I'm going to have so many trees around everywhere, I've got to make sure I've got plenty of lights, or plenty of kind of windows and natural light coming in, some open windows, and that's what you see me doing here, adding some of these little skylights in and stuff. So the building itself split over 2 levels. I have this problem, well, kind of a problem, but a little challenge I created for myself with all the building in this zoo is obviously because it's all set on a slope. We have these kind of bits that are kind of snuck down, so it's deliberately kind of hunkered down on the hillside, this building. And sort of following the contour of the hill. So working on the doors now on this side of again trying to get as much windows and lights in. I've basically nicked the doors there from the doors that we used on the actual entrance building. So reusing that, putting some details in and stuff. I'm pretty happy with the way this came out. As I said, it's not finished internally. The door you see in the background there, and again you'll see all this more in the real-time tour, is the tunnel that goes through to the wolves habitat, and so in doing that and sort of blocking this off, if you remember from that previous episode, if you saw that previous episode, I did have a little kind of access tunnel. The original plan was that would be somewhere that the staff would walk through, and I've actually sort of ended up deciding in this one that it will be it's all just implied, and I think the access gate and the general access for that wolf habitat is going to be shifted to the further end, the end that I haven't completed yet. So a load of details on the roof. Just wanted to give this some texture as ever. This is all moving along at high speed just to kind of get through. I missed out an episode last week. Apologies for that. That was when it should have happened. But just didn't kind of feel like I had enough. I still feel like what tends to happen is that because I'm putting so much detail into every single little corner, is that it tends to be quite slow progress, and rather than having kind of weeks and weeks and weeks go by of me not doing anything, I want to make sure that I'm getting these smaller episodes out. Do let me know if you think about that, what you think about that, guys. The temptation is to kind of wait and leave it a bit longer, but yeah, I'm concerned that not having content on the channel for that long will be a bit of a turn off for people. So yeah, so it's going to continue to be these kind of smaller episodes. As I said, I generally always, what you're seeing in this speed build is such a small portion of even what you're going to see in the tour, and what I actually end up including in the build is always pretty brutal, and you're seeing just the general broad strokes of it. So then moving on to the second section of the habitat, of the build this episode. Basically, we're starting to work on some aviaries. I wanted some bits of the zoo that look like they're kind of older buildings. So I think these are probably a little small for what I'm using, but I start to build out these little kind of aviaries, and there's a bunch of aviaries on the workshop. Tends to be that people have built these out of the ropes and things, and I did look at that idea. I just didn't think they really fit this, and I wanted to try something that I hadn't seen people doing. So I actually did a little bit of Googling, looked at some Victorian aviaries, and they tended to be quite small and potentially not really suitable for this sort of purpose. But I thought I'd build something that looked a bit more kind of classical. Again, it's a little bit of a mix match happening of styles in this zoo. We've got kind of a combination of modern and these kind of a bit more traditional things, but I think I'm actually kind of alright with that. I don't want to stifle myself in terms of sort of creative ideas with, being obsessed about a particular style, because I do think it is something that is organic. If you're going to have a zoo, there's going to be bits of the zoo that are older and newer, and these feel like they're a bit of an older relic of an older part of the zoo, or even just we're already there, pre-zoo sort of thing. So we end up with two of them. This flat roof was the original prototype, and as you can see, I've used the font pieces. I use the font pieces a lot in this. There are a couple of arch pieces in the game. They just didn't feel like they were really ever the right size, so they're either too small or too big. So I primarily used the U shape there to create that archway, and then I've filled it in with other bits of font and etc. So this is the first prototype. Both of these will be on the workshop. So I started off with the flat one, and I kind of was like, it would be really cool to get a round shape on top of it. You can see this weird sort of crab claw thing that I've done there, almost like one of those kind of little funfair game grabber things. But I was like, can I actually make an arch? So I used the brackets, one of the bracket pieces, to create that curve, a bunch of them, and then created that curve and then put the lattice in between, and then obviously had kind of a second one. So this actually feels a bit more dramatic and a bit more of an interesting kind of Victorian-y looking shape. Again, you'll have to let me know what you think these work. These will be available in the workshop in the collection, so grab these if you want. The birds I've put in them, you'll see again as we move around, but I think they're probably a bit big for now. And maybe this is me hoping that at some point we'll get some birds. I wanted to pick some animals that are kind of a bit more native, but you'll see what I've ended up going with when we get to the tour section. So just a few more details coming up to the end of the real-time tour. Of the speed build. So real-time tour will be up any minute. So I'll leave you, as I always do, with the last kind of little section of the you get a spoiler there, look, in the background. So I'll see you in a second, guys. Okay, peeps, welcome back. So we're back in the main plaza. So we'll try and sort of walk you through, spot anything that's new. I'm always kind of trying to remember all the things that I've done in between episodes. So this was all in the last episode. There was a few changes back here that I made. I did have a couple of people question, and probably quite rightfully so, whether this was really safe or not, because if you remember that episode, this is the wolf habitat. This is obviously guest facing. There is this kind of little moat section here, but yeah, rightfully so. It's questioned whether that's really really enough, whether that's safe or not. So obviously in the game there is a barrier. This is enough of a barrier for the game, but whether a wolf would consider itself likely to jump across that or not is a bit dubious. So there is a little bit of there's like a little moat section. There's this kind of metal railing here, but I did also beef up. I changed some of the rocks around, so there was previously a way for them to kind of climb up and down here, and I've also just made this fence a bit bigger, so it would be harder if not impossible, but we shall have to see what people think, for wolves to jump up over that. I think I'm probably not going to worry about it too much more, because the fact of it just being cool rather than me worrying about it being realistic or not. So we're going to scooch through here. I'm actually going to just yoink through the bush because I know I end up on top of the turnstile. So everything is being done backwards. If you remember from previous episodes, this is the entrance building. At the moment I'm still working on everything backwards. It does kind of make sense in my head, but it's a little bit strange in terms of the flows of these episodes. But we'll basically do a circle round. So this is the exit turnstile. So through that gate, past the entrance. We will see the entrance building again, just so you get some context. And I'll do a flyover and a night view and all that sort of stuff. But this is our new addition. This is the new building down the right here. I did some more of these beds. Probably needs a bit of fiddling with that stuff, but not too bad. So there's the new guest building, or gift shop building. Down the right there, custom textures. We extended this bed down, so you'll be able to see guests kind of passing behind there, because that's obviously the entrance way, and coming down there and down the hill. So there is an implied entrance here, or sort of that's probably a staff exit. Or needs a little sign on it or something. So we carry on down this way. This is all a bit more filled in now. So obviously we've got the wolves coming up on the right. I did this kind of what would you call this? Like a living roof sort of thing on top of here. So just to kind of give it, just to sort of preserve that view from the cafe there, to give you enough of a glimpse so you can still see the kind of the waterfall down in the distance there. That's all the the weenie birds flying overhead and stuff is all the point of this. Maybe it's a little bit repetitive. Probably needs a bit of finessing that. And I'm seeing some Z fighting down there. As ever, nothing is ever finished. Anyway, so head on down here. I tweaked some of these paths a little bit. They still feel a little bit like they're a bit steep. This one in particular feels a little steep. So I added in some of these kind of almost like an implied step, which we're going to bump down. So first on our right, again, bear in mind this is the reverse. This is the way out. So you'd see this kind of coming up the slope. Is a golden eagle. Credit to Drax for both of these two amazing birds that I've got in here. If you haven't seen these, Drax has basically done a whole load of birds of the world collection. I think these are from. Links will be in the, or these will be linked in the workshop collection, so you can pick these up for yourself. So it's just added a few custom billboards and things in here for that. And there's my first little aviary. So it's kind of, this one's like the flat roof one. You saw me doing that one first, and then I did the rounded one in. I think that's come out all right. The actual insides of them are pretty simple. I think, again, as I said in the speedboat, I think these are probably a little small for an eagle, but I think maybe when we get some more birds, and hopefully maybe when we get birds in the future, that I replace those. If you've got suggestions of an alternative sort of Canadian bird that might work in there, do let me know. I think I've made these kind of modular enough that they can be extended anyway. So that's the path heading round to the wolf habitat, which we saw in the previous episode. So the wolves are in there. We've got a couple of cubs in now, which is kind of cool. I have added a few signs and things in places. So I think we've got another one. There's the other one here. Oh, sit down. So there's the second. There's the second one with a rounded top. So this has got an open sort of rounded area. So a little bit bigger in there. This is for the harpy eagles. Again, amazing model. Again, these sorts of things work really well. Like just for kind of like that sort of view of them. Let's see, if you get too close, you see that they're not too realistic, but they're incredibly amazing. You know, for what they are, they're made out of gutter pieces and stuff, and the font pieces way better than I could ever do. So this is probably going to stay reasonably open. This little spot here, the main path of the zoo is going to come round here. I think this is probably going to be an alternate route. I've done some more work on the creek and stuff there, so I'll show you that in a second as we're flying around. But and then down we go to the steps to the trade post. So this is the actual building. Again, not an enormous amount to see inside of it because I haven't fitted it out, but I've done a few bits and pieces in there. We'll go in and we'll get a lay of the land. Hopefully we don't end up on the roof. So yeah, so this is kind of the internal space. I've done this kind of mezzanine floor up here. And so I think this is going to be all right. I need to figure out what I'm doing inside. As I said, I kind of run out of inspiration. I watched Ruble Trillion's new episode. He did Tivoli Zoo. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. It's amazing. But Ricey, who has made all the fonts and stuff, and is a bit of a genius with the art shapes, put an amazing gift shop in his zoo. And so I sort of watched that one and was like, oh, this is just not, what I'm doing is just not good enough. So I thought I'd pause for this. I got the floor in, pretty happy with the floor. These are all different billboards basically. I just put this texture, works pretty well. And I like how nice and light it is in here. That works really well. But yeah, in terms of the fit out, I'm just going to pause on it for a minute and find some inspiration, come back to it. I think this is upper area is going to be like an education area, and then downstairs will be the gift shop proper. So and then, as I said, that's the gate that goes back through the tunnel to the back of the Timberwolves habitat. So let's do a little bit of a fly around, and I think these actually work pretty well in context. As I said, I think they probably are a bit small, but I kind of like how they just kind of hunker down. And let's just check that view. So this is what I was saying. I'm trying to make sure I keep that little window, see that little kind of window you get there down towards the waterfall. I'm trying to keep that clear, which is why we've got this kind of living roof here. I did a bit of work on the other side. So if you remember, this is the entrance coming out from there, from inside that building. All of this still to be done. This is going to be a security room and probably a toilet block, and I'm not sure what else yet. I brought the path down a little bit, did some rock work here. So we've got this transition again. This view is kind of important that I keep clean. So just from the top here. And then I blended it all back in a bit, so we've got kind of, it fuses into the landscape a bit more. I think that's come out all right. You'll have to let me know what you guys think. I did a little bit more with this. As I said, this is probably going to be a battle, a constant pain, but I think this is looking all right. Coming down the hill. This is the creek, if you remember this from the previous episode, snaking its way down the hill, probably to down there somewhere. I think these two sections are going to end up in a little pool down the bottom. I don't have to have it flow openly like that all the way through the zoo. There might be a few bits and places where I block it off and it looks like it's kind of being channeled through by pipes or something. But yeah, I think that's looking all right. So there's it in context. We'll do a little bit of a switcheroo to the old night mode. See what it's looking like. I haven't done loads of this lighting yet, but I think it's kind of looking all right. Keeping it fairly simple. I think these probably need a little bit of light around them. And then the building itself, I think, is probably going to be, it's going to need a lot more work in terms of light. Anyway, peeps, right, let's switch back to day. Now, I think the next episode, probably going to have to get another animal in. I'm not entirely sure what it's going to be yet, and I'm probably going to work on some of this backstage area. So, that is it. Apologies, it's a bit sporadic when these come. I think we're getting there. Definitely getting there. We've still got a long way to go. Definitely still got a lot more to do. But as I said, it's going to be pretty dense, this. It's going to be pretty squeezed in. Everything's going to be fairly compact. So, yeah, not sure what the next one's going to be. Hopefully, we'll have some significant process. It will probably be at least 2 weeks anyway before the next one. So, yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, peeps. It very much helps me out. And I shall catch you guys on the next one. Take it easy.